Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whether you're across the nation or around the world. My name is Shane Squarick, and on behalf of SFX.com, Small Business Solutions, I'm excited to be back with you again today on our Wednesday Wisdom to talk about something that I think tends to go understated, and that's failure. I know it's a big deviation from a lot of what you're going to see on the internet, particularly when you start diving into some of your small business blogs and feeds and your entrepreneurial type ships. It's everyone's always talking about success, and they're trying to empower you, and they're trying to bolster you up. And I'm not necessarily trying to knock that down, but I think as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, an inventor, a CEO, an executive, an employee, a college student, we encounter failure all the time. And for some, it's really easy to kind of shrug off and walk away from and move on. But for others, that failure can be really daunting, and it can kind of bring you down a notch or two and really throw you off the trajectory you might have been on. I think there's a lot to be learned from failure, and a recent tweet by a gentleman I follow by the name of Chris Van Vliet. He does a great podcast called Insights. He had posted a clip from there, and he I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically says that when you hear about the Tom Bradys, the Aaron Rodgers, the Eli Mannings, you hear about the Oprahs or the Michael Jordans, the Mark Messiers, whomever it might be, whoever your heroes are, you always hear about the success story. You hear about, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, and Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time, and Oprah is the greatest whatever umbrella she's, I don't know if she's a talk show host, promoter, person in general, but they're always the greatest of all time. But what you don't hear about is all of those steps they had to take to get to that position, to be the greatest of all time. And all those times they slipped up and fell down and almost didn't get back up. For me, a really personal example would be, I recall a time within the last year, actually, I believe it is, I went on to a business call. It was a pitch. My understanding of the pitch was dramatically different than what the pitch actually was supposed to be. And so when I came on, I'm generally used to it. I guess in my flow of business, as I come on, I try to have a really good conversation with whoever potential clients are and just sort of pick their brain a little bit on what they're looking for. So when I entered this call, that's sort of the mindset I came in. I was dressed down, a little casual, and I came in to talk and just kind of pick this client's brain about what they were expecting. And when I jump in this call, they basically tell me, okay, go ahead. I was like, go ahead what? And I started to try to ask them questions and maybe go through an analysis of what their existing website looked like. And I can tell by the looks on their faces when they weren't laughing at any of my jokes, not that I'm normally a funny person, but that I was definitely not doing well. To the point that at one point during this presentation, one of the people leading the discussion had said to me, Shane, you are not doing well. So if there's anything you want to say or do right now to save this, I'd suggest you do it, because this is not going to end well for you. And so at that time, I was really taken back. I was not prepared at all. Apparently, it was supposed to be more of a 2-hour presentation on our offerings. And so when I left that call, obviously we did not end up landing that gig, and it was kind of almost like a traumatizing experience at that time. She's like, oh my God, like, was I that unprepared? But I took a step back, and, it actually helped me go back and reformat my whole pitch to businesses and the way I approached a lot of calls. And so I was able to from that really weird kind of failed experience, I was able to kind of craft this quick elevator pitch that, if put in that spot again, I can now talk about my business in such a way that, I don't have to rack my brain and talk about the project. And it was things that I had never really considered before too. They asked a lot of questions, the structure of our business, the way we handled projects, and a whole user flow and workflow that I'd always done and I'd always considered, but I'd never actually put it out on paper or spoken it in words. It just always sort of processed in the back of my head. And I took that, and I've subsequently used that format in all new pitches that I've went through. I still err on the side of wanting to have a conversation with a lot of my clients, but I know that some situations don't necessarily call for that. And I've learned from that really weird experience, that negative experience, that failed experience, how to sort of address that or notice that out of the gate. And so that's what I encourage each of you to do is to really take your failures, and you're going to have them, and you're going to have a lot of them, and try to find some sort of lining in there. And it's not always going to be a silver lining. Sometimes you're going to realize that you just bombed because you were not prepared. You just bombed because you don't know what you're talking about. But that's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to be the best at everything. For our business, really early on as well, and this is not for the same particular example I gave, but for others, I learned that I always tried to be something for everybody. When my honed in focus was this specific path. And in trying to spread myself out thin, I did a lot of things kind of not necessarily bad, but not the best I could. And it drew me away from what my focus was. And so while I would pull in consultants and extra help and spend a lot of time on all these other avenues that I knew a little bit about, but wasn't my expertise, it took away from my niche and it actually hurt me. So again, learned experiences, failed experiences, they are really important to you. So in the midst of all the motivational Mondays and your wisdom Wednesdays, try to give some thought to just that. How can you improve? Where is that self-improvement? And please, 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 I beg of you, do not take to heart a bad experience with a client or a customer. If you mess up, you mess up. You're only human. You're not always going to have perfect days. There's my Wisdom Wednesday for you today. I hope it helps. I hope it empowers you in kind of a different way than normal. And I hope to see you guys again soon.